I'm speaking with Lewis Smith with the Canada Safety Council. Now, Lewis, this week is National Farm Safety Week for 2021. What is this week trying to remind people?
Well, this year especially is a bit of a unique circumstance. Obviously, with COVID-19 mitigation still being a big discussion point around pretty well all of Canada, but even especially in the agricultural industry, we wanted to take a step back and remember that there are still important safety measures that need to be taken, even while focusing on COVID. So we wanted to focus on the importance of machinery and on the impact that machinery runovers, rollovers, and just general improper use can lead to fatalities, can lead to injuries. So it's an issue that we wanted to talk about. We wanted to bring back to the forefront. It's not necessarily anything that's going to be new to anyone in the agricultural industry, but safety is one of those issues that needs to be reinforced consistently. And we figured by bringing it up here, it's a reminder ahead of the busy summer farming season to watch out for the common issues.
And how would you describe how the agricultural industry has been going through this global pandemic?
It's been challenging. I think one of the biggest issues that's facing the industry as a whole is migrant workers. A lot of farms, especially non-family farms, are suffering from the issue of needing a lot more manpower and not having the manpower to work with. At the same time, we're also seeing some issues of farmers who planted their crops expecting the usual amount of sales, of transactions. And because of restaurant shutdowns, because of an inability for people to go out and consume food, there's just been a less uh, serious need for food. And that's resulting in a lot of farms being unable to offload their product, which leads to issues as far as wasted money, wasted resources. And the whole industry is hurting in some ways. In other ways, they're very fortunate. The fact that the agricultural industry is largely operated outdoors is a huge benefit. The fact that you can keep distance between a lot of workers fairly consistently is a huge benefit. And the fact that mitigation efforts can be done to keep workers off common machinery, or that specific workers can be assigned to specific machines, results in a lot of risk mitigation. So there are a lot of unique factors and a lot of hardships, but also a lot of positives coming out of it.
And could you tell me, on average, what injuries and how many fatalities happen on a farm each year?
Yeah. So according to the Canadian Agricultural Injury Reporting, they estimate approximately 85 fatalities on a farm every year. And of those 85 fatalities, we're talking about roughly 70% having to do with machinery, whether that's rollovers, runovers, improper use, a broken element that ends up, someone gets caught in it, or accidentally involving a child who gets run over or who's playing in an area that they shouldn't be playing in. But 85 fatalities a year, just at a glance, that seems like far too much. And if we're talking in the context of Canada as a whole, 85 fatalities per year is a little blip. But at the same time, for the farmers and for the families who are impacted by this, these are anything but blips. These are real lives being affected every year.
Now, what kind of safety tips would Canada Safety Council and Workplace Safety and Prevention Services want to give people working in the agricultural industry and on a farm?
The number one safety tip that we have to give as far as machinery is always make sure that you're verifying your user manual. The folks who manufacture the machines do so with intent. They have a very specific use and a very specific way to be used. So the manufacturers know the best ways to use the machines, and they offer these tips in the instruction manual. So if there's any concern, any uncertainty at all, your manufacturer's manual is your best bet. Beyond that, we also recommend making sure that children have a specific area of the farm in which they're allowed to play and that they're constantly supervised. The reason for this is that if a child were to run out behind a tractor and the farmer who's using the tractor isn't aware the child is there, that might lead to a run over, which could lead to injury or fatality. Beyond that, we also recommend keeping a very close eye on any kind of machinery. Routine maintenance is an absolute must, and you never know when a belt might give out or when a gear might let loose. So it's important to keep a close eye on these things and to address the issue before it becomes a bigger issue, rather than after the fact when you may be able to fix the issue, but it comes at a much more severe cost than you're willing to pay.
And throughout National Farm Safety Week this year, how can others help support this?
The best thing that we can do as far as this information is to make sure that it's shared. As I mentioned, safety is one of those issues that needs to be reinforced early and often. And oftentimes, when you're in a rush or when you've got something that absolutely needs to get done, safety is the first thing to go out the window. But unfortunately, you may get away with it once, you may get away with it twice, you won't get away with it forever. So, by sharing around this information and by making sure that it's top of mind for farmers as we head into the busy farming season, it ensures that if such an issue were ever to occur, where maybe an operator is using a machine and it's not working quite right, if this information isn't shared, if it's not at the front of their mind, it might not occur to them to take a look around before a fatality occurs. They might just keep on going with their day-to-day lives, and one day a belt will give out or a flat tire will cause them to have to maneuver the vehicle in an unexpected way. So by making sure that the safety information is readily available, it makes sure that if something does happen, they stop and they think, oh yeah, I saw the safety tip a few months ago. I should inspect my machine, make sure that it's working properly.
Is there anything else you want to add, Louis, for people to know about for National Farm Safety Week this year?
I think the big takeaway that I'd like to offer is that the agricultural industry is one of the most important industries in Canada, but it's also one of the deadliest. And it's one of the most important things that we do, making sure that farmers can continue to operate safely and can continue to operate knowing that they're operating safely. Peace of mind is worth its weight in gold at the best of times, let alone these days.
Well, thanks again so much for joining us today, Louis.
My pleasure, Shelby. Thanks very much for having me.